Date.
Good evening, Honorable Mayor and members of the City Council. This is our 6th reoccurring monthly update on homelessness and homeless services in our city. I do have a PowerPoint, so hopefully we can get that loaded up. There we go. So I'm just going to briefly go over our COLT activities for the last month, the SMART program, which we rolled out and talked about the last time, and then the services we provide, and then give you an update on our Homeless Navigation Center. So starting with the Quality of Life team, as I mentioned last time, they are engaged throughout the entirety of our city, and we do have their stats for the month of February 2022. So in February 22, they contacted 436 different individuals that were currently experiencing homelessness. They provided outreach services and enforcement action. This was an increase from the previous month being January. We conducted 399 cleanups. This also was an increase from the previous month, and performed 123 arrests or issued citations for various offenses. This was also up from the count we had in January. We were able to place in shelter 60 of the individuals that we performed outreach for. Some of the other March highlights that we had, COLT officers contacted 2 individuals that were experiencing homelessness in Santa Ana that were actually from Dana Point. They were 2 brothers, and they were known in Orange County skateboarding community for their YouTube videos. And they were also previously sponsored by a shoe and a skateboard company. One of the brothers had a foot condition that was deemed serious enough that hadn't had any medical treatment. So COLT contacted the healthcare agency, and with their assistance, we were able to transport this individual to a local hospital to get the medical attention that he needed. Our Public Works Agency continues to conduct encampment cleanups within our storm drain system. Oftentimes, some of the homeless are attracted to our various channels, and so for several priority locations, Public Works has identified and actually fabricated metal gates to prevent individuals from climbing down into the channels, which is a dangerous environment for any individual to be doing so. And we have 2 capital projects that are slated to start construction in the next few months to install several thousand feet of new fencing. And then in response to our outreach efforts in January, CHP did organize a cleanup efforts in Santiago Creek under the 5 Freeway Bridge. COLT assisted CHP, and the Orange Police Department homeless liaison officers were also under the bridge. And we had Caltrans crews and graffiti removing debris and assisting with the cleanup efforts. Santa Ana assisted with these outreach efforts via our contractor, CityNet, and unfortunately we only had 1 individual that was encountered except the shelter, but a walk along the creek from the 5-2 Flower Freeway found no encampments in that area. And I believe this was a request from Councilmember Lopez to get the different jurisdictions together to perform that type of a cleanup. The SMART program, which I introduced the last time, this is a new program that we launched, and it's to try to divert the 911 calls for non-emergency homeless-related calls away from dispatch and directly to the phone number that you can see on your screen. The goal is just to provide a more effective outreach and engagement while better utilizing city resources through diversion of homeless calls from the police department and our Orange County Fire Authority. So we did have a little bit of stumbles when we first rolled out the number, but hopefully we've got all of the kinks worked out with that, and individuals can find this a useful tool for them when they do engage with a homeless encampment that is not an emergency situation. We have the graph that we track showing the infographic on the screen. This is the activity from its December launch up through March 30th. They're deployed throughout the whole city, and to date, they've had 2,152 outreach contacts, and they've responded to 2,818 calls. Notably, 300 individuals were assisted with exiting the streets of the city. And as I always like to remind everybody of the other homeless services that we offer here in Santa Ana, we are responsible for providing shelter at 3 different locations. We utilize the Salvation Army Hospitality House, which is a shelter for single men. We have a facility that we refer to as the Link. It's really the second Link. This one is located in Fullerton, where we provide and pay for beds for individuals that need shelter. And then we have a program with Families Forward, and this is for the homeless families that we encounter that are seeking shelter, and we do that by doing so utilizing hotel rooms to do that. And then, as always, regarding housing options, we have several permanent supportive housing units completed. We have additional in pre-development or under construction, and in total, when the ones under construction are completed, this city will have 437 permanent supportive housing units. And in addition to that as well, we do have our HUD voucher program. So the Carnegie Navigation Center, we are hoping it is going to open up very soon. I do want to get you guys out there for a tour of it. By mid-month, we will begin moving some of the furnishings and equipment into the building in preparation of transporting and receiving the guests, which we will have to do in a phased approach from the 3 locations that I had just previously talked about. On construction, we are hoping the construction is nearing completion. You can see from the pictures of the interior that there's wall coverings, there's a commercial kitchen. We have the playground out in the back of the building, just about completed. And what's before you tonight on your regular agenda for the individuals that we are currently providing shelter, we do need to extend the 3 agreements. So that's the agreement with the Hospitality House, with the Family Forward Motel Program, and the Salvation and the Fullerton Recuperative Care Center. So we want to extend those tonight so that we'll have a time when the shelter is completed that we'll be able to transition the individuals in an orderly fashion to the new Homeless Navigation Center. Next update for homeless will be on May 3rd. And if you have any questions, I'm available, and so is Stephen Mendoza. We don't have Ken Gaminsky with us tonight, but we can do our best to answer any questions you may have.
Great, thank you for that presentation. Let me go ahead and bring it back to the council to see if there's any questions or comments on the update. Councilmember Lopez.
Yeah, I do, thank you. Christine, I really enjoy, the presentations, but I think what I also would like to see be part of these is a cost breakdown of how much we're spending for each service that we're providing. And I think a bed count as well, just so that the public knows how many beds we're paying for, the cost of each bed, and what shelter has beds available. I think that would be helpful. I also just have a question. I know that we have a homeless services manager, and I want to know if at any point in time we will get to hear from that person, do a presentation. Okay, thank you.
That will relieve me, and certainly we can bring that individual in, and then you'll be able to see a face with the name. On the request for bed counts and cost, are you also interested in seeing the funding sources that we use for the homeless efforts?
Yeah, that'd be great. Thank you. Also, I think, all of us know that there's been some media around Carnegie and the construction halting without the city really knowing or our permission. And so I'd like to know if you have a cost estimate or already a cost that has gone out that we've had to pay because of the construction that was stopped.
We can add that to the next presentation. I don't have the exact numbers.
Okay,
right
got
now.
it.
Okay.
And then also I have a couple requests for staff. If staff can please forward me a copy of all the invoices that have been paid regarding the Carnegie shelter. I'd also like to see a timeline of, the cost amendments that have come to this council that have been approved. I'd also, I guess, would just like to meet with the homeless services manager to just have a conversation about what's going on at Carnegie. And I also would like to request the original project budget documents that I think should include the rent, the furnishing, how much was originally budgeted for this project, for this shelter. And okay, and can you let me know also by what date we expect this shelter to be open?
Certainly. As you know, we do have some litigation matters, so it's out of my control, that exact date. But when we do have a firm one, I will let you know. On the invoices, the documents you're requesting to be emailed to you, we're talking very voluminous documents. May I suggest we'll set up a meeting with you with our homeless services manager, and then you can have copies of the items that you're interested in.
Perfect, that works with me. And can you let me know, what's the monthly rate that we're paying right now?
Are you inquiring about the actual rent?
Yeah, for Carnegie. What are we paying them?
$66,000.
Okay. And then who's the owner? Who did we contract with?
Dyer 118 LLC.
Who owns the LLC?
I believe it's a subsidiary of another corporation. Am I correct? Are you asking who the principals are with Dyer?
Who do we?
I believe the two names that are associated with it is Ryan Oglenik and Chris Lee.
Okay. And, okay, that's going to be it. Thank you.
Great, thank you, Councilmember. Any other questions or comments on this item? Councilmember Peñalosa.
Thank you, Mayor Sarmiento. Thank you, Madam City Manager, for that presentation. One thing that I just want to make sure that we're staying on top of is I know that the governor and the state of California in the last month or two have brought forward Care Court, which is about $10 billion plus in state dollars that are going to be dispersed amongst the counties to have court-ordered care for mentally ill individuals. And I know that a lot of the people that are living on our streets are either mentally ill or just severely addicted to drugs. So I want to make sure that we're staying on top of that as well, making sure that if we could, by court, through the court system, force people to get the care they need, that we're looking at that as well. As we, at the next update, possibly give us a small update of how that could work here in Santa Ana, how that could be incorporated into, I guess, the scope of what our homeless services manager is already doing here in the city.
Certainly, I'll work with the city attorney and the county, who would be the ones that would be implementing that program.
Right. Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Councilmember, for that. Any other questions or comments?
I have a question.
Go ahead, Councilmember Mendoza.
Yes, I'm wondering whether when these individuals who want the services, are they asked whether they're veterans? Because I'm thinking that maybe we could create some kind of a referral system, because the VA actually offers lots of housing and other resources to the veterans. So maybe we could refer them over and allocate those that funding to other people who are not veterans.
And certainly, and we do coordinate, so there's a central intake that's used throughout the county, and so for individuals that have veteran status, there are standalone programs for them, and in fact, we've done housing projects specifically for veterans, but we do coordinate to ensure that we're using a full breadth of what the services are available for the individuals.
All right, thank you.
Thank you for that. I think seeing no other questions or comments, the only comment I was going to make is to the council member's point on the care courts. So that's still being drafted by the governor and his staff, and I know the governor's staff met with the big city mayors on conversations about what that's going to look like. Unfortunately, it's a very sensitive topic because it talks about reducing the threshold for conservatorships and whether or not you can impose and mandate care on an individual. So, you're talking about informed consent, you're talking about so many other civil liberties that people have, that it's difficult. But it is born sort of out of the challenge of having people deny or not accept care, right, or placement. So that's where the challenge is. I think it's still going to be a debated issue, and they're still working on that. So more to come.